أهلا بكم في حلقة جديدة من برنامج إكسبو يجمعنا. ما يجعل إكسبو دبي فريدا من نوعه هو كيفية إتاحته المجال لتواصل العقول وصنع المستقبل. لذلك لبى العالم دعوة الإمارات للتعارف عن قرب وللتبادل البناء من خلال إكسبو دبي 2020. في طريقنا إلى إكسبو اليوم سنرافق السيد جون مارتن ST.Valery رئيس المجموعة البريطانية للأعمال في دبي. سيحدثنا عن محطات من تجربته الحياتية والمهنية في مجال الأعمال في دبي على مدى 20 عاما الأخيرة. سنقف معه على معرض بلاده في الإكسبو الذي يسلط الأضواء على خبرة المملكة المتحدة في قطاع الذكاء الاصطناعي وتكنولوجيا الفضاء. سيد جون طلب مني الالتحاق به في أبراج الإمارات، والبارحة في رسالة قال لي سأخذك لمكان التقاء الماضي بالحاضر بالمستقبل. أحب الأحجيات ولكن صراحة لا أفهم ما يقصد بالتحديد. لنذهب للقاء جون. John, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
What is this?
Sorry, I was just miles away there.
You were contemplating this beautiful architecture piece of jewellery, this museum.
It's incredible, just watching the guys doing the finishing touches.
Yeah, it will open very soon. And this, John, was named one of the most beautiful museums in the whole world by the National Geographic.
Yeah, there's no surprise there, is there?
Of course, it's
I don't know if you've seen it in the evening as well.
Oh my God!
When the calligraphy is lit up.
Beautiful.
Stunning.
Imagine someone coming to Dubai for the first time, and he will be impressed by the airport, Sheikh Zayed Road, and he sees this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All this.
And all this, actually. So now you have to tell me, you told me yesterday I will bring you to a meeting point of past, present, and the future. I kind of now understand what did you mean by your hint.
Yeah, well, I mean, from a past perspective, obviously there are much older areas of Dubai, you're down by the creek and Shindaga, etc. They're traditional. But for my personal story, having arrived here in the late 90s with a young family, so they've always had a special place for me. And whenever I get the opportunity, actually, you mentioned contemplation, to have a walk around this terrace area. Beautiful. And just remember those days. And look, but they haven't aged at all, these buildings.
They are very modern.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they are timeless.
Exactly. So the architecture, apart from anything else, and the fact that they're part of the Jumeirah group, which, as I mentioned to you before, is close to our heart, and particularly with BBG, they're one of our main partners and sponsors. But then a few years later, I think it was 2004, when, if you like, the present, the DIFC was established.
I can see it also from here, which is really amazing. This is the gate of DIFC.
Exactly. And, the story has it that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, when it was just a building site, just stopped right in the middle and envisaged this archway that you could look straight through and see Emirates Towers and all the way up to the trade centre there. So I think of that as the present. And as for the future, I think it speaks for itself.
Of course. The powerful of the vision, honestly, we can see it here. Yeah. And can you believe the IFC opened in 2004?
Yep.
And it is one of the top 10 financial city in the whole world.
Exactly, yeah.
It's very fast, right?
It is fast, and not just from a real estate perspective, but from a governance and a world recognition perspective. I mean, the DIFC courts, that was a leading force.
True.
And other financial centres have copied, in effect.
Do you know the secret?
I think it's the people.
Yeah.
It's certainly the vision of the rulers and government, but they brought the best of the best in globally to assist with, and the Emirati talent that's now risen to the top is astonishingly good, which is
amazing.
Important.
You told me that the first interview you got it in the Emirates Tower.
Yes.
Tell me you got the job.
I did, yes. That was the job that we actually came over for.
Excellent.
Eventually, because I remember going home and telling my family that, let's pack up. We're going to go over what an adventure, maybe for 3 or 4 years.
Oh,
you know,
and
so
you never left.
24 years later.
Quarter of a century,
yeah,
John.
Exactly. Well, the story about that is that that company moved out of the region.
Yeah.
And it was thinking time for me, and I thought, well, there's an opportunity here to do something.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, the three main selling points, if you like, for Dubai in particular,
Excellent.
for me, are opportunity, opportunity, and opportunity.
Amazing. That's a great lesson that I have, and everybody have to listen from you. And, you know, I want to continue chatting, but can you give me a tour? I love this place.
Sure.
What a vibe. It gives me a very, very positive vibe.
Does it give you a feeling as well?
Yeah, I have the feeling. Yeah. So
because I come up here, I switch my mobile off and just walk around.
Amazing.
Remember. But let's go and have a look at the gate.
I want to make a tour before finishing our chatting.
Sure.
Yes. Thank you, John. Thank you for the tour. What an amazing, how did you came up with this spot? I mean, I love it. It's, like you said, the meeting point between the past, the present, and the future. Thank you again.
You're most welcome, Nufa. Sorry it's a bit windy today, but it's worthwhile, isn't it?
Yes, it is worth it. And the good thing, it's hot day, but this wind makes it breezy, to make it easier for us also to make this interview, as long as not being blown away.
Exactly.
It's okay. We'll finish the interview, inshallah. Yeah.
Very good.
So, John, you have a fascinating story. You came 25 years ago, almost, quarter of the century.
You promised you wouldn't say that, Nifa.
It's okay. We have both of us grey hair. It's okay. People will figure it out, you know?
Yeah, true.
So, what made you stay?
Well, I think if I look back to why we came here, in the late 90s, I had an opportunity to bring a UK company over to the Middle East, and we chose Dubai as the location, and I was their general manager. And I was tasked with setting up that business here, and it was before the financial centre, just behind you there. Yeah. Certainly before the Museum of the Future.
It's not open yet, yes.
But one of the first things I remember when I was driving along Sheikh Zayed Road, which was a 2-lane carriageway at the time, not as it is now.
Now it is around 7 and 8 lines each.
At least.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. So incredible. That tells a story in itself. But I remember coming past these 2 buildings here, and my 2 young children, as they were at the time, saying, "Oh, you know, Daddy, they're Toblerone Towers," and they'd just been built.
Wow.
And it was just a feeling that something was going to be happening here before the rest of all this development, as I say, before the financial centre and so forth.
I know when you came here, nothing almost was here 25 years ago, 24 years ago. You bet on Dubai.
Yeah, there was nothing in some ways, but a great feeling of optimism. Now, I'd come over here to establish a foreign company, and that foreign company, after about 3 years, actually moved out of the region for various reasons. So this was early 2000s, 2000, 2001. And I had the opportunity then to think about, well, how to take advantage of the opportunity here. Do I just go back to London, back into the banking or financial services sector that I was in, or do something here myself? And I think that's what Dubai provides. The best piece of advice I was given actually in those early years was, "John, you should join the BBG." And I thought, I didn't know what the BBG was. And it's a network of like-minded individuals that will assist you, and you'll find your network, John, I was told. So if you need to find a lawyer, an accountant, a real estate agent, a recruiter. And that was exactly it. It helped me build a network to build my own business.
Did you, when you came and someone who gave you good advice, a great advice to join the BBG, did you ever thought that you will be one day a chairman of the BBG?
Well, no, not in the early days. I mean, I've been a member for over 20 years, and over the sort of preceding 20 years, I've served on the committee or the board in different roles, so events director or membership acquisition director. And a number of years, about 10 years ago, I was deputy chairman, but my own business had become so busy at that time, I wasn't able to devote enough time to it. But 4 years ago, 2017, when my my peers and fellow members voted me into the role. It's a great honour.
You know, when you came here, there were no Dubai DIFC. You know, it opened in 2004.
That's right.
And I see like you evolved with Dubai, and Dubai evolved with you as well. How is the feeling when you came and you feel that things are being building up and the strategy and the vision is there and you can follow it?
And the vision is always there, even through the different generations of our rulers. And now with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, that vision is very clear. It doesn't change and alter as it maybe in the West every 4 years.
And it go up until 2071. The strategy and the vision, believe it.
And they will get there. When you say growing up with Dubai, I do back to the towers here, Jumeirah Emirates Towers. I often feel that I've followed the Jumeirah group strategy because they were about the same sort of time, and they're an annual partner or founding partner of the British Business Group as well.
I think they grew up in Dubai and they are in London now as well.
They are, yeah, and many other parts of the world.
Exactly.
So an amazing success story. And as I say, they're a great supporter of the British Business Group and others.
Yeah.
But for us as a founding partner, along with HSBC, Motivate Media Group, AHR Wealth, and Emirates Airline, we're very lucky to be supported by these companies.
I feel that you were well surrounded and very quickly as well.
Yeah.
I want to go back. You were in sales in UK before you came here 24 years ago. You were in Citibank.
That's right.
You were in Kodak.
Yes.
And a little bird told me you were in Scotland Yard. Forget about Citibank and Kodak. Tell me, what were you doing in Scotland Yard?
At quite a young age, I decided to go into public service, and I joined the Metropolitan Police in London. But as a youngster, I was only 15 and a half, and I joined the cadet school, which allowed me to finish off my secondary education within the Metropolitan Police Cadet School. And then I went to Hendon, which some of the viewers may know about. Yeah.
When I was reading about your career, I thought you were like a spy or something. But well, let's not talk about it. Now, what is impressive is your conversion from the administration, the sales, to the business world. How do you convert? Is it easy?
No, I don't think it's easy, and I think it's more an evolution than a conversion, I think. So as you grow with a business, as I say, often for an entrepreneur, I think it takes a seismic moment to take that plunge into entrepreneurship. And for me, it was when the company I was working for moved out of the region, and I made the decision then to say, no, something's going to happen here. They were talking about the real estate market opening, talking about the plethora of free zones that we now have. They didn't exist at the time. And I thought this presents an opportunity to me to help other businesses come into the market. And that's what my career here has been all about, market entry solutions and foreign direct investment into the Emirate.
You helped company to get implemented here in UAE.
Yes.
Was it easy?
No, it's not easy. It's becoming easier with e-government initiatives, which is fantastic, and it's becoming more cost effective. But the barriers to entry back in the day were, perhaps what we call foreign participation, or mandatory having a local partner for a mainland business. So we created or pioneered a structure called the corporate nominee that's widely used now across the region.
That made me think about how you witnessed the development of the regulation in UAE. What do you think about it? Does it grow fast? Does it adapt fast to the needs of the market, of the investors, of the investments?
It's an interesting question, because not necessarily fast, but in the right direction. And particularly over the last couple of years, the dialogue between private and public sector has never been stronger. The voice of not just the British business community, but generally the the business community is well heard and listened to by both local and federal government. So that helps. So it's certainly moving faster.
They adapt.
Yeah, they do adapt. And ease of business, it is getting easier. It is becoming more cost effective.
So the business you have built 24 years ago, you stepped out of it in 2016, but you have another one. Beside the BBG, of course, your own consultancy.
Yes, I have to have a day job as well.
And yeah, of course. So my question, was it easy also to go from here? Because it's very inspiring to our viewers who want to shift, for example, from one sector to another, from one job to another. Is it, how do you make it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Having spent so many years developing market entry solutions to make it easier for companies and foreign investment policy. Of course, we've been sector agnostic, so it doesn't matter what sector you're in, and that's what I found really interesting. It could be manufacturing, healthcare, education, financial services.
So now with consultancy, you have them all?
Yeah, exactly. So which makes life very interesting.
You still feel that UAE and Dubai is that fertile environment to work and to flourish?
Oh, completely, yeah, even more than before.
Wow, I'm curious. When 24 years ago you went to your wife, you broke her the news that you want to come to Dubai,
yes,
somewhere in the Middle East, in the Gulf countries, what was her reaction?
Her reaction was actually very excited, yes, because she worked for a British airline in the past and had already been to Dubai, so she knew a little bit about it, certainly more than I did, before I came to my interview at this location.
Amazing.
So no, very excited about it. Our kids were 8 and 6 at the time, so good time to move them to the great schools that exist here.
And they grew up here?
They grew up here
among 200 nationalities?
Exactly, yeah. So they had an amazing sort of melting pot existence. And yeah, they spent most of their secondary education here and then went back to the UK and Europe, respectively.
I am sure that they are in a British school with a British curriculum. My question, how did they evolve and grow up with other, culture and religion and nationalities and people from all over the world in one place?
Yeah, well, as I say, that melting pot, that international melting pot, existed within the school system as well. So yes, it was British curriculum, but it was multinational. And so the friends they've made for life of all sorts of different nationalities and learning those cultures was really important. But what was interesting, when they went back to my daughter went to the UK, my son went to Switzerland for their tertiary studies.
Yeah.
And then they worked in their different fields, met their other halves, got married, and then came back here because they recognised the opportunity in their field. And we're blessed now, we have 4 grandchildren between them.
No way.
Yeah. So
you don't look like you are a grandpa.
You're very kind.
Really?
Yeah.
And that is a blessing that they went away all over the world and they came back.
Exactly.
And they are raising their children here as well.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. In this safe, secure environment and giving their kids the same opportunity that they had with mixing with other nationalities and enjoying that.
Your story is also the story, and your kids and children's story, your grandchildren's story is the almost 100,000 expat other story coming from UAE. Why do you think they settled here?
Well, I think the Brits have always had a very strong relationship, with this part of the world, but particularly the UAE, and I think particularly Dubai. Pre the Union, this is the 50th anniversary of the Union this year, which is incredible. But prior to that, it was the Trucial States. The Brits were very involved. So I think we've got a long-standing, respected relationship, working with the other nations, of course. But we've been here a long time, and we respect and admire the ruling family and government for what they've achieved.
Yeah, the future. Yes, that is amazing. We are still here. That means the wind was very kind with us. But we have to change, you and I, and we go to your office.
Sure.
We have other topics to talk about. The chatting with you is very nice. We have BBG talking, the bilateral trade between the 2 countries, UK and UAE, and a lot of other points to discuss also. How about we go now before we fly away?
Let's do that, Nufa.
BBG is from that
Thanks,
side, right?
Yeah, just over at the British Embassy. I think we'll get there quickly.
I think if we fly, yes, it's easier. Let's go.
Brilliant.
Thank you. John, thank you for this tour in London.
Yeah, it is almost, isn't it?
Yeah. So let me ask you, when you are homesick, you come here instead of going to the airport?
Always. It's much much easier these days.
Yes, especially with coronavirus and the pandemic. This is your offices of the BBG, the British Business Group. When was it established?
The group was established 34 years ago, back in 1987.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago.
It was. It was actually the first registered business council or business group in the UAE.
Under the umbrella of Dubai Chamber.
That's correct.
So earlier in the day, the British community or the business community of UK emphasized that you have to have an umbrella to work under to create the network?
Yes, I think a group of like-minded people at that time, whether they were bankers or had their own businesses here or represented UK businesses here, decided they'd get together for the good of the all. So it was the original sort of collaborative effort for business in the region.
Maybe the other countries followed up after that, and they have, because there are so many business councils under the Dubai Chamber umbrella now.
Exactly, and those councils, including ourselves, have innovated over the years, because there's no point in just staying the same. Of
course.
So we improved
and how the BBG evolved over the years for now? What is its mission?
It's interesting because the story I normally tell is anecdotally. When I first came, as we've discussed already, when I first came to Dubai with my young family in the late 90s, I think I mentioned to you before, the best piece of advice I was given was join the BBG, and I didn't know what it was. And I had no network here, no business network, no social network, and BBG enabled that for me. So when I speak to incoming members today, they're looking for the same thing. But then our value proposition has to be really clear, and it's about creating business opportunities within our ecosystem to ensure our members deal with other members for real, tangible business opportunities. For market intelligence, for example, is the second tenet of our value proposition. And then valuable networking, which there's a social element, of course, as well, but it's not all social, but not all business. But those 3 points are really the value proposition.
How many members do you have today?
700 plus members currently.
Most of them, which sector they work in?
Actually, we're sector agnostic, so it's across many sectors, but the key focuses at the moment of healthcare and life sciences, fintech, and education on top of the agenda.
Because normally the business that is interesting for the investment and British investment, traditionally it's maybe oil and gas, or maybe this is more Abu Dhabi. So what interests them traditionally and what it became now?
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. Oil and gas and defence has mainly been through the capital, Abu Dhabi. And of course, back in the day, when the economy of Dubai was more focused on hydrocarbons as well, there was certainly that. But then over the preceding years, of course, construction and contracting has been an enormous focus for British companies.
Yeah, but there are always construction in Dubai.
Well, exactly. I mean, this office that we're in now, in the grounds of the British Embassy, was built by a British contracting company.
There are newcomers still with the pandemic. You feel there are more investment interested to come and settle here in Dubai?
Oh yeah, very much so. And it could be companies, or it is companies coming into the market to take advantage of the regional opportunities, but actually basing their headquarters here. We see a lot of that. In my day job, when we're looking at market entry solutions, a lot of businesses base themselves in Dubai because of the infrastructure, education, transportation, medical care. It's all, the infrastructure is here.
Whilst it became a hub.
Absolutely. Yeah, and not just a regional hub, but a wider regional hub, working across in Central Africa or West Africa. Businesses basing themselves here.
When the newcomers are coming here, what can you offer for them?
From a BBG perspective, is to welcome them to this ecosystem so they meet the type of businesses that they firstly want to deal with, maybe for the future, for those real business opportunities, but also from an advisory perspective, maybe to watch out for certain pitfalls when doing business. Dubai, is a great example for that, where people talk about free zone businesses versus mainland businesses. Which one should you be in? And really, you know, we would advise as a group to speak to other members. And it depends on where the audience for the product or service is. If it's within free zones or regionally, internationally, then free zone is the right type of setup. If you're dealing with government entities or quasi-government entities, you're probably better off setting up on the mainland, as we would call it. And so there are a number of advisory businesses within the BBG that are able to help incoming companies with that type of information.
Amazing. Since you are the first licensed business group, business council under the Dubai Chamber umbrella, do you have any preferential treatment with them? I'm just kidding. How do you cooperate with the Dubai Chamber?
I think all councils have preferential treatment with them. I mean, the Chamber are great. You know, the overriding role of the Chamber in any part of the world is really to be the regulator or the regulatory authority. But Dubai Chamber here is a real enabler for business, right from His Excellency Hamid Bouamin to the entire team that we've dealt with over many years, and particularly in the last 18 months to
That
2
was
years.
my next question. Yeah. Did you come closer, you and Dubai Chamber, the BBG and Dubai, and the BBG with other business council and business group? Did you come closer because of this pandemic?
We did, and that was very much encouraged by Chamber. We've always been close to Chamber, and there are certain other business councils or groups that we've dealt with for combined events. But right at the beginning of the pandemic, we were part of the creation of a multi-nation task force of business councils. So the voice of the business community, not just the British business community, but across the board, did have the ear for local and federal government, as well as our own governments that we deal with, to find out what the business community really did require in those early days when it was pretty scary for business. Yeah.
Talking about the business, back home for you in UK, you decided to separate from the European Union, and there were this Brexit after a referendum, and the people chose to be away from the European Union. How did it have as an impact on the investment with the UAE?
What we've seen is much more of a focus. There's always been a good trading relationship and a growing trading relationship over a number of years. What we've seen from the business community rather than the political side, which I wouldn't comment on, is a renewed focus. When you think of the UAE being the 5th largest export country for the UK outside of Europe, but when you combine the UAE, and this is a really interesting statistic or point, combine the UAE with the other 5 GCC countries, collectively with the 3rd most important market to the UK behind the US and China. Now that's hugely significant when it comes to things like free trade agreements that are being negotiated as we speak, but for the region rather than just for the UAE.
The volume of trade between the UAE and UK in 2019 was around $21 billion. Yes. You think that can be enhanced and it can grow better?
Without a doubt, but it dropped last year for obvious reasons, as it would globally. So it's probably about, I would guess, and this is a personal rather than a group estimate, about 4 billion lower than it was in 2019 for 2020. But the renewed focus, and I think, again, I mentioned before, the government-to-government relations, G2G, between the UK and UAE, I've never seen so strong at the most senior level. There's an overriding council between the two countries called the Uae Uk Business Council, and there are 2 co-chairs, one from the UK and one from the UAE. The
relationship between UAE and UK go way back.
Yes.
From the beginning of the UAE in 1971. A few years later only, there were a visit of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, and it was exactly in February 1979.
That's right.
To Abu Dhabi. And she met with the late Sheikh Zayed, he may rest in peace, as well. So that was important that she came to a country that is not a Commonwealth.
And that's a very good point.
For a country that is really, really newly established.
Yes. Yeah, they're absolutely right. And Her Majesty also made a visit up the road, as it was, up Sheikh Zayed Road to Dubai, to open the World Trade Center, formerly the Sheikh Rashid Tower, and she met with Sheikh Rashid And that was a very proud moment for the UK. A little bit before my time here, but
but beautiful pictures came out of that visit in Abu Dhabi, and with Sheikh Rashid, he may rest in peace.
Yes.
But this is not the only visit that she made during the 50 years of UAE. She made it also in 2010.
That's right. Yeah.
What does it tell you? Because for a country that is not a Commonwealth country, she visited Her Majesty, this country, twice.
Yes, for our head of state to be welcomed in such a way shows the strength of that relationship between Britain and the UAE. I was fortunate enough to be in the audience when Her Majesty visited in 2010. And again, there was great excitement from both our Emirati hosts and us as Brits, obviously, overseas.
So it shows how UAE is very important for the UK and vice versa, as well. The businesses, how many companies are established here?
We look at some statistics, and if we say UK companies, we talk about 6,000 companies, or that's the official government statistic. And that means that those 6,000 would be companies that are UK registered and, if you like, banked and taxed in the UK and recognised here for that. We all know there are many other businesses that are either owned or managed by Brits here. So I think the number's actually much higher, but from a UK registration perspective, about 6,000.
I know you are a successful story and an inspiring story for your community. Do you remember also another nice story, successful one, that is part of the BBG?
Gosh, there are so many. Yes, it's a very interesting question. Of course, some spring to mind, but I'd hate to leave others out.
Or they will be mad.
Yes, but no, there are many in all seriousness. And I think, when one gets involved with the British community, what you find is some of these people that have actually been here a very long time, much longer than myself, and have either been very successful in international business growth here, or building their own businesses. There's one particular individual I have to mention. I think you know Ian Fairservice from Motivate Group. Yes. Incredible success story from being here in the late 70s. Originally here in the hospitality sector, and then saw a gap in the market for publishing and media, etc., and has built this empire. And his business, Motivate Media, are actually one of our founding sponsors.
Oh, that is
along
excellent.
with HSBC, Emirates, and Jumeirah.
That is excellent. You are really a very strong, active community. I didn't even have time with you to film this episode because you are really active with your company, but with the BBG. What other activities do you excel in and you want really to promote?
From a BBG perspective, I think what's really important is to continue this collaborative effort with some of the other business groups. So, for example, we have an annual golf day that includes other member councils and groups, which is in October of this year. And that's much looked forward to by members of the business community generally. But it's not just a social event, it is an opportunity to actually take time out maybe for half a day and spend some time with. I'm not a golfer myself, but I always enjoy that opportunity.
Gathering.
Yeah, exactly, to meet people.
And it could also, bring back businesses as well.
Completely, and it's that balance between business-focused events, which of course we have, that need to be educative and interesting speakers coming in, telling us about what's happening elsewhere, perhaps. Elsewhere in the region is important to us, so we tie up with other Middle East or regional councils.
From the last 18 months, what are the businesses that focused and eager to come to UAE?
I think again across a broad spectrum, really. But there's a definite interest in fintech or anything tech, really. Sort of whether it's edutech or health tech is where it seems to be at the moment. So we have a lot of interest amongst group members. Absolutely, well. Machine learning. And all these things that those of us with grey hair need to brush up on a little bit.
And of course, we spoke about it. You have around 100,000 expats or more. You told me there are a lot more. Do you think British living here in UAE have a message, have an image they want to reflect in UAE coming back from home, UK?
Yeah, I think we want to take the message, well, we do take the message back home that this is a safe, secure, and a country or an emirate of opportunity. And we can display that through as we just spoke about, the success of some of our members. But it's all about doing business in the right way.
Yeah.
And any business going internationally or into new frontier or emerging markets, need to take the proper advice so they don't get it wrong. And that's something that the BBG can help with through its membership. So it's really just displaying those values. I used to say in my own work when advising companies that were coming into market, don't leave your standards on the plane. Don't leave your governance standards on the plane. Bring them here and improve the community.
And that is a very nice message and advice, John, you are giving to all the new businesses here in UAE and in Dubai. Are you ready to go back outside in a windy and hot day, but this time to go and visit Expo?
Fantastic. Love to, yes. I think I'll take my tie off this time.
Yeah, I think I will change as well because it's very hot. And we will go to visit Expo. Unfortunately, we're not able to see the British Pavilion because they want to keep their revealing as a surprise.
Absolutely.
I understand. We will show some picture and we will talk about the British Pavilion and its theme as well. We are in Al Seef here, and to go there...
20, 30 minutes max?
It's okay.
Yeah.
We have a very good Sheikh Zayed road, and I will speed up a little bit.
Fantastic.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
After you.
Thank you for bringing us here, John. That is very nice.
It's quite a sight, isn't it?
What a gate.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And behind it, there's the Sustainability Pavilion. It is also another gem in this huge expo. This is history. You are coming from a country that held the first expo ever 170 years ago. And at that time, that was called the Great Exhibition, and now you are here to participate in an expo in a country that you've been living in for 20 years.
It's quite incredible, really, Nufa. I remember when I was at school studying about the 1851 Great Exposition in Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
I remember it well, and since then, and actually in latter years, have become a bit of an expo junkie myself. I was in Shanghai 2010, Milan in 2015. And so here we are in 2020, Dubai in 2021. It's quite incredible.
A lot of things going on right now. A few weeks before it starts, the Expo 2021 or 2020 in Dubai. But you've been involved in this Expo. It's different. You have read about the Expo that was held in UK and you visited the other, but this one, you have a role as a BBG in it, right?
Yeah, and this is real. And for the BBG, or British Business Group Dubai Northern Emirates, we're very involved. A number of British businesses, both here and from overseas, back in the UK, have been involved in this fantastic structure. And it's not just the construction or the contracting, but every other facet of the Expo that's involved, which is, I think we're only 50 days away, are we, Lufa, now? So, yeah, we're very involved.
So, how about the British Pavilion? What is the theme of this pavilion for this Expo?
It's quite incredible. I've actually just walked around from the pavilion. It's a shame we're not there now, but it's not for me to unveil this wonderful
I can
structure.
explain. Unfortunately, we cannot see it now because most of the pavilion, actually, they have the same policy not to reveal anything and leave everything for the big revealing the day of the opening. And I can understand. We will show some clips.
But it is so exciting.
It is.
And so do come along on the 1st of October.
Yes.
So creating possibilities for the future is what the pavilion is all about, innovating for the future. And when one thinks of it from a UK or Great British perspective, when you look at the World Wide Web or artificial intelligence, so on and so forth, space exploration, we tend to be innovators anyway, so innovating for the future is absolutely spot on in my view.
What do you think the message that UK want to give to the world through this Expo?
I think it's to show to the world, to continue to show the world that we are innovators. We pack a punch, as we say, as a small island nation globally. And when one looks at the trade figures, for example, between UAE and UK, which are so important and growing all the time, we want to increase that, but through collaboration with our partners and the other 190 countries represented here at the Expo.
And what is fascinating is that the British Pavilion is inspired by a project of the late Stephen Hawking. Why him?
Well, when one talks about innovation, you can't help but speak about Stephen Hawking and really looking to the future, not just round the corner, but way into the future. And when I mentioned just now artificial intelligence, machine learning, space exploration, no one really exemplifies it better than Hawkins himself. We're so proud.
And Stephen Hawking as a person is an inspiring personality with all what he has gone through his life, and still he inspired us, he improved our humanity actually. So maybe the Expo also is coming at a time where everything is challenging, and especially at the time of the COVID. Do you think that this Expo will start a new era post-COVID, post-coronavirus, that hopefully we can manage to live with many challenges as the pandemic?
Yeah, sure, and one would hope so. And I think even the run-up to the Expo has shown that. We've spoken a lot about inspiration, throughout the day, and that's very much what it's about. And when you take the whole thematic of connecting minds, creating the future, it is inspirational. And I think anyone that we speak to, whether it's in business or socially, recognises that over the last 18 months, we've all changed. We've had to. In some ways, we've been more industrious, but we want to make sure that industry comes to some sort of fruition as well. But there's a great deal of positivity here, and we can feel it around the site already, even though it's not open yet.
How do you think the British Pavilion will reflect the logo and the theme of Expo Dubai, connecting mind and creating the future?
Well, exactly that. Everything that we're doing is to do with collaboration. And I think without giving secrets away, I think one of the innovative things about the UK Pavilion is that every visitor that comes in is able to choose their own word, any word in any language, that will go into this algorithmic machine learning I can't even think of the word, it's so exciting, but it will all come together and at the end come out in some form of joint and collaborative poetry. It's quite a wonderful thing, really. So again, it's, as you were saying, it's not all about business, it's about bringing people together for the betterment of the future world.
Do you think the business scene will change after Expo, or during and after Expo, in the region and in the countries that are participating? In them there are 190 plus countries participating.
Again, Nufa, it's changing already, and I think Expo will be the accelerator for the 6 months we're in place. I mean, to paraphrase His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, when the bid to put on Expo was first won, he said Dubai or the UAE is bigger than an exhibition. It's all about the future and the legacy, and I think that's the exciting thing for all of us.
Talking about the pandemic, there are a lot of lessons that we learned. What do you think we can bring from this experience to not to come to the same bad challenges that we went through this 18 months?
Well, I suppose we've all learned. It might be the way that we conduct business, but it might also be the way we understand how our co-workers work and what their home life and personal circumstances are. I was on the way here, actually, I was speaking to the driver who was telling me about his son who's just turned 18. They've lived in Dubai for over 15 years.
Amazing.
And he's one of the volunteers coming to the Expo site, as many college and school children are. And again, I said, oh, is he coming here with some friends? No, absolutely not. But he's made friends already in the 3 or 4 days a week he does on the build up to Expo. So that inclusivity, I think is something that's really interesting. Because sometimes in business particularly, we tend to get into a silo and just concentrate on what we're doing ourselves, but it's about the wider community. And I think Expo really exemplifies that.
It gives that example that you have to give back.
Exactly.
And
want to give back.
You want to give back. That is very inspiring also. What do you think the legacy will be from Expo 2020 of Dubai?
Well, of course, I am rather business focused, because when I come from a BBG perspective, and there's a lot of talk now, and a number of our members are involved in a legacy program where certain countries that have pavilions here, for example, they want to know what to do with that afterwards as far as attracting reciprocal trade between those countries and here. A great example, I was speaking to them last week, is the Republic of Kazakhstan, who want to further their trade relationship with the UAE and see Expo as a focal point of that. So not just during Expo, but building those relationships through that 6-month period to be able to continue to build the trade mission afterwards. So that's particularly exciting from our perspective.
Beside the British Pavilion that you would love and I would love to visit when it opens and it's revealed, which other pavilion that you are looking forward to visit?
Well, I think when I think back to Milan 2015, I loved the UAE pavilion was superb. The UK pavilion, again, the beehive structure, I don't know if you recall, was quite mesmerizing. But then turning round, and just opposite was the Israeli pavilion. And when one looks at what's happened over the last couple of years as far as the joining of relationships there, both business and otherwise, it's quite remarkable. And maybe just a little bit Expo had something to do with that back in 2015.
It is connecting everybody with everybody.
Exactly.
And a very tolerant and very nice ambiance. This is great. This is one of the latest moments that it will be quiet like this and empty. How about we take a tour? Because I don't think you will have another possibility to see it as it is like this when it opens in a few weeks.
Please, let's do that. I'd love to.
Excellent. John, thank you for the day. It was an amazing day with you. From the Emirates Tower to your office, BBG, to here. It's a great experience, an amazing day. Even it is hot day, but we managed.
It has warmed up. We're okay so far.
We're a little bit tan, but it's okay. It's okay.
True. No, it's been a great pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you. And definitely we'll go back together to the British Pavilion.
Perfect. Let's do that.
Yes. شكرا لكم مشاهدينا على المتابعة. الأسبوع القادم جناح آخر وشخصية بارزة أخرى في دبي في برنامج إكسبو يجمعنا. إلى اللقاء.